Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into the Critical Breakdown. Wanted to make sure you're fully aware. We're on Facebook. We got our website, the Critical Breakdown, and make sure you're leaving ratings and reviews for us on iTunes or whatever podcatcher you're listening on. It helps us out a lot. It's what keeps us going. It's how we know that we're doing the right stuff for you. And we'll read them on the air if they're good, if they're funny. So bring your A game, people. Got another good episode coming up here that you're really gonna like about the movie. And hey, thanks for listening. And here's Max.
Hello and welcome to the Critical Breakdown, the podcast where we start at the bottom of Rotten Tomatoes and work our way to 100% fresh. I'm Max.
And I'm Scott. Today we're talking Signs by Night Shyamalan.
Also known as
M. Night Shyamalan.
For those who are slow on the take.
Or much quicker on the take.
Yeah.
This is such a treat for me, because I adore this movie.
It's definitely one of our best ones we've watched.
For sure. But we'll get into it. There's no rush.
We'll get in.
There's no rush.
There's no rush. What you been watching, Scott?
Well, I got a couple movies under the old belt loops there.
The movie belt loops?
Yep. I watched The Glass Castle, which is the Brie Larson led and Woody Harrelson led adaptation of the, I guess, memoirs.
With the same name, right?
Yes, I believe it has the same name. And it's directed by, I believe, Daniel Creston is the director's name. He directed Short Term 12, which is one of my faves.
Didn't it get, this one got, like, mixed reviews?
Yeah, this one, I think, is at a cool 50 on Rotten Tomatoes. Some like
Love it or leave it?
I'm on the leave it camp. Whereas, like, Short Term 12 is kind of your prototypical indie movie. Like, it does everything you want an indie movie to do. This one just doesn't. And there are a few scenes in the movie that are really brilliant and, like, well shot and well done. You can tell everything went the way they wanted it to.
Yeah.
But those scenes are surrounded by, like, 20 minutes of really boring melodrama. So it's really tough to get into. And then I had problems with the portrayal of Woody Harrelson's character, who's a very abusive father. But at the same time, they kind of glorify him at certain points. So it's a very mixed message.
I wonder if that's because it's based off, like, a memoir, like you said.
Yeah, and from what I read, some of the content of said memoir are, it's pretty graphic or shocking. And so they just cut it. And this didn't really cut too deep, so I could see that they did cut it. But I don't know. I knew that it had gotten mixed reviews when I went into it, but I was like, I'm kind of feeling a movie, so I went and saw it at at one of the art house theaters in town, still showing it. And I wish I hadn't, but
damn.
I mean, it's just not a good movie.
No, I feel you. I mean, sometimes you watch a movie and you're not happy with it.
Yeah. Well, any movies you're not happy with this week?
I didn't really watch any movies this week.
Oh, well, what did you watch?
I went back to a TV show that I started watching last year and dipped back in just because I've been hearing good buzz. I think the series just ended, which is Halt and Catch Fire.
Oh, yeah, you did watch that
and there's about four. I think they just finished the 4th season, and I think that's where it ends. But
and what season are you on?
I just got into season 2. I was about halfway through the first season, and I just had so much stuff going on that I stopped watching. I liked it. There's nothing wrong with the show. The first 4 episodes are like a slow build-up.
Yeah.
They're trying to get you, to a certain spot with the characters. So it's sometimes hard to watch a show.
Those shows aren't as bingey.
Well, it's also like a 10-episode season per season.
Yeah.
So when you start with the slow build-up in a 10-episode series, it's necessary by the time you get to the end of the show. But when you just don't know that, it's like harder to watch. So I left it for other stuff, but I liked it and I planned on coming back, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
Season 2 already is pretty cool. I like a lot of what they're doing. The show begins focusing on Lee Pace's character, Scoot McNairy's character, and Mackenzie Davis's character.
Yeah.
But over time, you realize like there's Scoot McNairy's character's wife, played by Carrie Bichet, I think is how you say her name.
Okay.
She becomes more of a prominent character, and she's a really interesting character. And so it's just interesting to see when they bring in these other characters and stuff. And she almost becomes more important than her husband at one point. So it's an interesting way they do it, and you wouldn't think a show about because the show's about the early days of computers, personal computers. You wouldn't think that's like really high tension and dramatic, but man,
they got there.
They do it.
It's always interesting how like because that's like a prestige show kind of, right?
Yeah.
It's always interesting how they build on like a successful first season, like bringing new characters in. I feel like some shows just kind of lose it when they can't.
Yeah.
Bring it in there. Like
and this
Heroes. Heroes was one.
God, yeah.
That as soon as they had to riff on the first season.
And that's like also, from the writer's strike and all that. But I mean, all those lessons are learned, I feel like, because a lot of these shows now, they'll do shorter seasons. You get top tier talent. If you're bringing a new character, they're also usually like top tier or bigger, or they're like a nobody, but they're good. A lot of times those older shows, like that era, I mean, you could say like Heroes, Lost, and Battlestar Galactica all kind of pushed genre TV back into popularity in different ways, and each one kind of brought something to the table. Heroes was just like that kind of the same way Lost was like a moment where everyone was talking about it in a week to week. Yeah. And
kind of like Game of Thrones is that now. Where it's the water cooler talk on Mondays.
And but man, Heroes like ground to a halt after that first season. So
and I think TV acting or TV in general is a lot more prestigious than it used to be. I mean, I think maybe House of Cards with Kevin Spacey would be a big, like one of the first ones that really took a A-list movie actor and gave him a show, and then from there you see it all the time now. Yeah,
I mean, HBO was definitely dipping into that already, but I mean, that was always premium TV anyway. Yeah. So they've been doing it for a while.
That's HBO.
It's HBO. But it's interesting because I recently read an article that said, this is something we've talked about plenty of times, even on the show, medium budget movies have gone away because TV is now medium budget movies.
Yeah.
And it's kind of true.
That. When you just look at where the money is.
Yeah. And I still wish medium budget movies would come back, but I also kind of get the appeal of just sticking with the TV show instead. So
it could be good. It's like a stable time, like long time for an actor. I feel like I don't know. I mean, I can't really put myself in those shoes.
Yeah.
*Halt and Catch Fire* always felt like one of those prestige shows that has fallen through the cracks because there's just so much TV right now.
Yeah.
Which seems like a weird complaint, but there's tons of options.
There's too much to watch ever.
Like even if I wanted to watch Star Trek Discovery, by adding an extra barrier to entry, I'm not going to, and it's not like I'm missing anything because I'm still full of things to watch.
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, the good thing with like *Halt and Catch Fire* is I think each season got really good critical acclaim, so it wasn't like, an unappreciated show. Like it still got some good appreciation, and I always say like 4 seasons is fine for a show. That's
a good run,
especially when it's 10 episodes. So it's 40 hours of a good TV show. I'm down with that.
Yeah,
but
The Americans is the same way though.
Yeah,
they make great shows, but it just doesn't get that widespread appeal. What channel does *Halt and Catch Fire* come on?
Honestly, I don't know.
AMC?
Maybe.
Yeah. Americans is FX. I was just wondering if they're the
first 3 seasons are on Netflix of *Halt and Catch Fire*.
Okay.
So,
cool. Well, maybe I'll check it out.
I definitely suggest it. If you're feeling a good TV, like I said, the first 3 episodes are kind of slow burn.
Yeah.
But I'll say this, like Lee Pace's character is just crazy to watch because he does like unpredictable things.
No.
And then Scoot McNairy's character is just like fun to watch because he's pretty much on the verge of a nervous breakdown. Like 8 of 10 episodes, and it's fun. Like it's a good way.
Mackenzie Davis is fun to watch because she's beautiful.
And there's that too.
Yeah.
So
well, that's good. I'll add it to the list, the pile of TV shows.
Yeah, the never-ending pile.
Oh.
You'd mentioned some movies earlier though.
I got one more.
Told me about one.
Yeah, it was a little tease for you. It was for you. That's not for the audience. That's for you. We like to keep it fresh. We like to keep it spicy.
#spicy boys.
I watched a indie movie on Netflix called The Transfiguration. It had gotten some decent reviews on Netflix. Or on Rotten Tomatoes. It's at like 88%, I think. It's just this like really small budget, not really a horror movie, but maybe a thriller about a boy, maybe 13 or 14 years old, who either is or thinks he is a vampire.
Wow.
I know. It was an interesting movie. I just kind of threw it on because it was like a 90-minute whatever, and I don't know. it was filmed in this like really deliberate pace so that it felt like real life, but then like he'd also like kill homeless people and drink their blood.
Wow.
There'd be spoilers for this, but
Yeah.
it wasn't that interesting, honestly.
Happy Halloween.
Yeah, that was the idea. I was like, let's throw in something scary-ish.
Yeah.
Wasn't that scary? And
If Scott wasn't scared, it wasn't scary.
I mean, there were jumps. Don't worry.
I mean, there's jumps and everything.
I watch a Disney movie and I'm jumping.
Yeah. Maleficent, man. She's creepy.
I don't know. Angelina Jolie Maleficent, though?
Different kind of creepy.
You watch anything else?
Honestly, no. I've been binging *Halt and Catch Fire*.
This winter, what's the movie you're most looking forward to?
Most looking forward to. What counts as winter?
Just until the end of the year.
You know I'm bad with my movie dates. I'm pretty excited.
November and December.
I'm pretty excited for a Star Wars. Is that this year?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for a Star Wars.
Justice League. You were telling me you're excited for Justice League.
I said as much as I get excited for it, I get unexcited for it.
Well,
the CG in the trailer of the backgrounds just looks so bad in the red areas of the movie trailer.
Yeah, I'm not.
Anything inside a building and inside of like actual sets and nature looks fine.
I think all the Batcave stuff looks a little too much like a server room to me.
Well,
we'll see. I mean,
like a server room, like from like an office.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, but I just give me a little injection of fun in there. Like the Michael Keaton Batman.
He has just like 6 Robins working like cubicles behind him.
Yeah, that would be great. What do you do here? Max, we're getting off track.
We are.
We're talking signs.
If only we could have some signs point us in the right direction.
Oh, God.
Some crop circles.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Pointing us. They're maps.
Yeah. Max, what's the plot synopsis for Signs?
A family living on a farm finds mysterious crop circles in their fields, which suggests something more frightening to come.
That's a good plot synopsis.
Yeah, kudos to whoever wrote it.
One thing I like about this movie, and the summary kind of hits it too, is it gets right into what it's doing. It finds the way to do all the character building while you're in the beginning of the plot. There's not like some movies will take 20 minutes to be like a day in the life of whoever, and then they get going. But this one, you mentioned it while we're watching. You're like, yeah, this movie gets into it.
Yeah, I think it's like within the first 2 minutes, you get like the first hint of what's going on.
Yep.
And then by 10 minutes in, it's revealed what's going on.
Yeah.
They don't know, but we know.
And they don't ever pull the curtain fully back.
Well, and that's suspense. Once again, I bring this up all the time that Hitchcock said, like, the audience knows, the directors know, the writer knows. It's just the character doesn't know. Yeah. And that's this. And it works. Yeah. It works pretty good. It's a pretty suspenseful film.
I mean, it's M. Night Shyamalan, who this is our third M. Night movie.
We don't know how to quit him.
We can't quit him. I think.
Well, how much higher does he have than this? Does Sixth Sense go higher than this?
I would imagine. We can look it up.
So yeah, there's only a couple more M. Night Shyamalan movies above this, including Sixth Sense at 85%.
And then Split, which we talked about a good bit earlier this year around its release, but that's at 75%, which could have been next week, I guess.
Could have been.
I love M. Night though. His crap is real crappy, but
he's extremes, man. When he's good, he's good.
For me, his good is real good.
Yeah.
Like Unbreakable is right on par with these.
Yeah, but when M. Night is good, I appreciate his film work. I like what he puts into a movie. Yeah. But I think in the Split episode, I actually said he's best when he has a small cast.
Yeah.
In very little locations, and when the plot is tight, and that works. That's what Signs is.
For sure. I mean, look at The Last Airbender. Look at The Happening. Look at other Lady in the Water.
Yeah.
His bad movies all are very bad, but the good ones, he doesn't love using CGI, and I feel like at least Sixth Sense and Unbreakable and Split and Signs all don't have that much CGI, right?
Yeah. He's really choosy.
Even Split.
Yeah,
it's very limited.
Yeah.
So,
and like this one, besides Airbenders, does this have the most CGI? With
Signs?
With the aliens?
Maybe. The Happening has a lot of CGI, actually.
Okay.
The Happening like has a lot of people jumping into lawnmowers and stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Lady
Well, I
in
would
the
say this is probably at the time, like from his early run of films.
Yeah.
This definitely was high up there for it. And even then, what I was going to say was, you only ever get one full-on shot, unobscured, like one sequence with an unobscured alien.
Yeah, in the climax in the living room,
and it's half of the shots are obscured.
Yeah,
So-
half the shot is from the reflection in the
Yeah.
TV, and that's the kind of stuff I love about M. Night Shyamalan, though.
Yeah.
Like, he can take a totally normal scene and with his creative camera work,
Yeah.
make it really good. I don't think we should touch too much on just our general M. Night love or my general M. Night love in this episode because we've touched on it before.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's plenty to talk about with this film.
Yeah, the cast is really good.
The cast, right off the bat, you have Mel Gibson.
Yeah, and
Pre-breakdown.
yeah, and say what you want about him now, but I think this role, it's really hard to picture another actor doing it the same way.
I agree. Joaquin Phoenix.
Loved him in Village, love him in this.
I like Joaquin.
I like a good young Joaquin.
I like to see him in stuff.
There's a good young energy, but also still having that like sort of craziness that Joaquin has.
What's weird about Joaquin Phoenix is he pulled off being young for like way too long,
Yeah.
and then like he aged, and he's aged into like appropriate work now, but he pulled off that young thing for just like a long time because he started acting when he was pretty young.
Yeah, I bet you actors like him and maybe Miles Teller of today's age, they'll be like late college age
Yeah.
characters for a long time.
Way too long.
Yeah.
Then you have a young Rory Culkin,
Yeah, and I can't remember what else Rory was
He's
in.
like
he had
the,
one other big one, but
like the is he the youngest of the Culkin boys?
I want to
The
say
acting Culkins?
who's the one in Fargo?
That's Kieran, right?
Isn't he the youngest?
He might be.
Yeah, I think it might be Kieran. I don't know.
And Kieran's the one who's also in Scott Pilgrim, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like Kieran.
Yeah.
He picks interesting movies.
Say what you want about the Culkin Empire, but they're pretty good sometimes.
They talk and sound all alike,
Yeah.
and they have different acting skills. But yeah, I mean, I don't have any problem with Culkins.
In this movie, Rory was fine.
Yeah,
Like,
he was
and Abigail Breslin, her debut role.
Mm-hmm.
They were both very good children actors.
Yeah, and like I'm pretty neutral on kid actors. I do think you kind of have to cut them a break sometimes because they're kids. But when you do see a good child actor, it's like usually pretty damn good.
Yeah.
If they're when they're good.
Yeah.
You can tell the talent's there, and
A lot of times I feel
She was
like
good.
it's on the writing too.
yeah,
It's tough to write a kid. It's tough to put yourself back in those shoes.
and he does a pretty good job coming up with like things kids say.
Yeah.
Like, there's a monster on the roof. Can I have a glass of water?
Yeah, it's kind of an iconic line from this movie.
And it's just like,
Uh,
the kid who's just kind of like, whatever.
yeah,
I see this kind of stuff all the time because I'm a kid. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I like it.
yeah.
And you also have one other person in this movie.
Yeah, Cherry Jones plays Officer Paskey. That's really your only other main character.
Main character, yes. But you did have a very scruffy-looking Michael Showalter
Oh, yeah.
play like the town asshole, basically, who...
Yeah. At the recruitment office, the
something
military recruitment
Pritchard
office.
or something. I don't remember what his
I
name
don't think he was a Pritchard, but
they believed he was one of the kids messing with their yard.
yeah.
And when I saw this movie, I remembered Michael Showalter because he was in Stella at the time, but like I didn't really care. When I saw this movie now, I think I laughed for 5 minutes and I could not stop
you did.
laughing, and it almost broke the movie for me. But thankfully, he didn't show up again, so it was fine.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bit role, honestly.
Yeah, no, it's a bit role, but it's just he's playing it like Michael Showalter, which that's just who he is.
Yeah.
But when you've seen him do enough stupid roles, and then he's here like, yeah you struck out there, Meryl.
Yeah.
Like in
Couldn't
the Michael
help
Showalter
yourself, could ya?
It's just like, oh man, come on. Like
Yeah.
it was hard for me, and that's me. That's not the film.
Yeah.
That's me. But it was hard for me to concentrate for a good 5 minutes after that. And like I said, I put that on myself, but it'd be like if Michael Ian Black was there, like talking shit. I would start laughing.
Like if he was just like the pizza guy.
I mean, in a straight comedy that works fine.
Yeah.
Like we were dying laughing at all the weird comedians showing up in Zoolander who are now
Yeah.
people, but back then were just like nobodies.
Yeah.
Patton Oswalt as a photographer in the background made us laugh.
My favorite Zoolander cameo was Billy Zane, though.
Oh, I mean, that's the best. Yeah.
Pantheon member, Billy Zane.
Billy Zane, he's a cool guy. Mr. Fabian.
One other actor we didn't mention was M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah. He always
He's always
little bit part in his movies. This is one of his
Hitchcockian.
bigger ones.
This definitely was, but it's also like pretty memorable.
Yeah.
Like I
mean,
I
he
didn't think it
made
was
himself like the emotional antagonist, which was interesting.
Yeah, but they also keep that character under wraps for a long time.
Yeah.
He's not a bad guy. It's not like if they had made him a drunk driver.
Yeah.
That's a totally different spin on that character. But his character in the past, it's like revealed late in the movie. I thought they were a really good job of being patient with the reveal. Mel Gibson's wife, Graham Hess's wife, I don't remember the character's name actually. Valerie or something. I don't. That doesn't sound right, but I can't remember it. Colleen.
I think it was Colleen.
Yeah, let's say it. Colleen.
Locking it down.
Colleen dies. She was struck by a vehicle and pinned to a tree, I believe. So she was alive when Graham got there, but it was M. Night Shyamalan's character, the local vet, who fell asleep at the wheel. So if they made him a drunk driver, like that would have changed it totally because it makes it so much more challenging when it's just a mistake.
He's a vet. He helps animals. He's somebody who cares about life. He fell asleep. She's not even like upset, even though she's dying.
He's clearly broken up over it. Yeah.
And they do a good subtle thing right off the bat, which is when the dog gets scared and pees. He's like, I'll call the doctor in the morning,
or I'll call so and so in the morning.
And his kids, well, he's like, I'll call the human doctor. Basically, is what he said. And the kids were like, why don't you call Dr. So and so, the vet?
Yeah.
And he was like, he's busy or something like that. He just like
he says like the doctor will know what to do.
Yeah.
But this movie has so many things like that where if you're not really fully paying attention, it's just a detail that reveals something about the character. Yeah. And I love it because you could do exposition like a loop feeding over the top of the movie that's like, Graham Hess's wife died, and ever since then his collar's been in the drawer.
Ladies and gentlemen, Morgan Freeman is now in Signs.
But they do a good job of making those moments small and minor, and they don't get in the way. Like one of the first scene is Mel Gibson leaving his bedroom, and it's like quiet, and in the background you can just see like the dust outline of where a cross was once hanging on the wall, and it's not anymore.
Have you seen I think it's Scary Movie 3?
Pieces of it, but not enough to say yes. No, I haven't.
I'm not a huge fan of the Scary Movie series, but I think it's the third one where they spoof Signs, and there is a couple jokes that worked really, really well based off Signs. One of them was the accident scene when I think Charlie Sheen plays the Mel Gibson-esque character. He's walking up to see his dead wife, and an Indian actor, I think, who's playing the vet role is like, hey, Graham, I'm going to need a ride home after this, okay? And that made me just like cackle. I was laughing so hard because it was so inappropriate, but it worked really well. He just like looks up from talking to the cops. And then also when the female police officer, what was her name?
Officer Paskey.
When Paskey is talking, like the Paskey character is talking to the Graham character in it. Every time it cuts away and cuts back to her, the rim of her hat just keeps getting bigger. And they just keep doing it without ever addressing it until she has like a giant hat on, just the rim.
Yeah.
And just sidebar, it was funny. Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of the Scary Movie series, but those moments of the Sign spoof did make me laugh.
Isn't it an internet rumor that all those scary movies and stuff are made by Steven Soderbergh? I feel like I've read that somewhere. Like he was making all the spoof movies under like a pseudonym.
I wish. I'd be down
because
with that.
Like somebody looked at the schedules or something of the shooting and everything, and I don't know. It feels pretty dumb to me, but
I'm gonna look into it now. But I've not heard of that. But that sounds fun.
That'll be you'll find out next week on Investigator Rivera, our newest segment.
Sing it.
No.
Just doing some investigations on this movie.
Goodness gracious.
Mark Ruffalo was originally going to play Meryl's character.
Yeah, but he had a brain tumor.
Benign.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a brain tumor, so he pulled out of the movie. I like Joaquin's character in this, and I can't imagine Mark Ruffalo capturing the way he played the character.
I can see it a bit. Like, I can see the spotlight Mark Ruffalo plugging into this, but the key to Meryl Hess, Joaquin Phoenix's character, is that he's a very serious part of the movie, but he's also like the levity at the same time.
Yeah.
Like when they're watching the Brazilian broadcast where they see he's like, "Vamonos, children."
Yeah. No, I'm glad. I'm not glad Mark Ruffalo had a tumor, but I'm glad.
Wow.
Wow. I'm glad Joaquin got this role.
Wasn't, and I don't remember 100%, but didn't Joaquin end up with the part in The Village because someone else couldn't do it too?
I don't know.
I don't remember, but I feel like that was part of it.
I feel like if he had worked with him, he should just pick him again, you know?
Well, The Village is later, so.
That's what I'm saying, like, since he worked with him on this one.
Yeah. Joaquin, always the bridesmaid, am I right?
Yeah. So we had mentioned the vet scene just now, and I was reading earlier that Mel Gibson wasn't even aware that M. Night Shyamalan was playing that character until he got to the set that day.
Yeah. And what I think is even cooler is, I don't remember fully the story, but M. Night had just gone through some tragedy in his family.
Yeah, he lost a family member.
Yeah, the day before, the week before that shoot or something, and it just made it a much more emotional performance.
Yeah, and I think M. Night's not an actor by any means. You could always tell he's a guy acting instead of like an actor being a character.
Yeah.
But I think he did fine in this for his role. He's very like numb.
Yeah.
But sad at the same time.
And that's exactly what that character's supposed to be. But it always takes me out of the movie a little bit.
A little bit.
You know?
But they take you right back in, thankfully, because his last line in his scene is it's locked
don't go in the pantry.
don't go in the pantry. It's locked. I locked one of them in there, and then he just peels off.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? And it's just a cool scene after that. So it's smart filmmaking on his part.
And there's little subtleties to what he says to Mel Gibson. Like he says, "I'm going down to the lake. The way I see it, those crop circles aren't anywhere near water. So who knows if there's anything there."
Yeah.
And it's just left at that. And then of course
on further rewatches, like if you watch it again, you catch it and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, of course.
And it's a bit like I like that as much as I also dislike it. The only thing I dislike about it is that it's the director saying it.
Yeah.
So it's almost like an Easter egg of him saying like, hey guys, I'm telling you right now it's water.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I don't think I cared that like the first two times I saw it. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Like the second time. But this time around I was like, if anyone else had said that, I don't think it would have like stung negative with me, which wasn't like a break the movie thing or anything, but I was like, it's like a God moment, basically.
And it's like when you watch it for the first time, you don't know that.
Yeah,
that's
it doesn't even
anything.
faze you.
Yeah.
So
but the nice thing is when that reveal turns out to pay off, when the alien bumps into the TV there and the water spills on him, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And basically all the details of this movie work that way.
Yeah.
Every bit of what seems like it's just characterization, like the asthma of Morgan Hess or the particularness about the water of Bo. They just seem like they're little character things to kind of develop the characters. All of them end up paying off at the end, basically. And you can look at it a few ways. It's either just really good writing that it worked out that way, or, and this is like one of the key plots of the movie, is it's either coincidence or it's all...
They're all signs.
Yeah, it's all in place for a reason.
It's all fate.
So the way it all ends up paying off is... in the first act there, actually I think in the Michael Showalter scene, when Joaquin Phoenix is talking to the Army recruiter, they say to him like, oh, you hit 50 home runs one season, right? They're like, you blasted that one 500 feet or something. And he's like, yeah, I still got the bat on the wall. And then that ends up coming up in the climax. And then Morgan has asthma and they need to get his inhaler. And that comes up because one of the things that the aliens do is they like shoot toxins into people to like harvest them somehow.
Yeah.
But his lungs were closed up so he couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
And then Bo is very particular about her water. That's like the most minor one.
Yeah.
But, so there's water glasses everywhere. And in the climax, Joaquin Phoenix is like batting them right into his face.
Face bat.
But the climax of this movie is so good, in my opinion. Like the climax almost isn't even the conflict with the alien.
It's an emotional climax.
Yeah, it's the emotional climax. It starts with when Morgan starts to have his like asthmatic attack. Mel Gibson is just like, he's just like so mad at like God.
Yeah.
And there's a whole spiritual side of this movie that I don't even know if it's worth really dipping into. I think it turns some people off from the movie.
Well, I mean, it's just it's a man of faith who lost his faith, getting his faith restored. I could see why somebody would dislike it, but as somebody who's just not religious myself, I thought it was great. I mean,
I love it
because it's all about writing and character. It's not preaching to you. It's just telling you this guy is getting his faith restored, and I think that in an alien movie, like that's interesting. Nobody does that.
Yeah, the challenge of faith is such an interesting way to look at the sign, like and the alien invasion.
That's true.
You know, but he's just like cursing God, basically. You know, like I hate you. Why are you doing this? Stuff like that. And then at the end, as he. And the way they unveil it, it's the speech his wife's giving him as she's dying, pinned to the car, and all the pieces falling into place, and then it ends up outside
Well,
where-
and he even quoted the speech earlier when he was talking about coincidence.
Yeah.
And so to have it come back and have it work,
Yeah.
like, no, it's good. I once again, I think it's just from watching a lot of M. Night the past year. There are what I call some M. Night like writing moments where sometimes his dialogue's like really on point, and then sometimes it's kind of cheesy. And this, it works.
It's always like right on that line.
Yeah. And this, it works. But there's some lines where like if it wasn't this exact movie exactly how it is, like they would be some stinkers, but they work really well in here. It's like you said, it's on the line. Like for example, in Airbender, when it's like Earthbenders, that's Earth under your feet, and it's just like, oh god, like don't, But in this, it's just like see, Graham, see, like you need to see, and it cuts back to him like seeing, and the music, the shot, because they're doing a cool like almost like a wide angle close up shot of his face where it's like it frames the entire thing around his face, and it works really well. But it's just one of those things where I was like, in other circumstances, some of these lines would be real dumb, but in this, I liked it. But that's the thing with M. Night is I think he's a sincere filmmaker.
Yeah.
So he puts a lot into his stuff, and if you ever are being sincere on a piece of art and it just doesn't read that well, but you're still sincere, like it'll come off as cheesy.
Yeah, but it makes it so much more authentic.
Well, yeah, but when it comes off good, it's like it just works, is what I'm saying. But when it's like Earthbenders or Earth Under Your Feet, like that is the bad side of it. The good side of it is like Signs.
Yeah,
so.
And I mean, M. Night's really churned out some duds in his day, but I feel like he always is himself, and I respect that.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like The Last Airbender is a bad example because it's like another property and everything, but even The Happening, which is stinky garbage, and The Village, which is very poorly received, they are very much M. Night Shyamalan movies. And at least with The Village, I still loved it.
Yeah.
But it's still distinctively him.
Yeah.
And I like that he's at least brave enough to continue with that. Like, Split is still distinctively...
Oh, yeah.
It's not like you look at Signs from 2002 and Split from 2017, and there's a huge lull between those of terrible movies that he made. It's not like he had to change everything he did to come back with Split. There's some lessons learned, sure, but it's still his vision.
I mean, a lot of what worked in Split like works here too, and a lot of like what didn't work in his other films shows up, and then like with The Village, you have this great build up, you have great tension, great music, great shots, like visually a beautiful film. Yeah. And we felt they just kind of dropped the ball in the ending.
And it's what happens when you kind of build everything up to a twist.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, do you consider Signs to have had a twist? Do you think The Water was a twist?
It's the twist of the War of the Worlds. I mean, this movie is almost like a retelling of the War of the Worlds, which is funny because I need to mention that in a second. But
don't just leave me my mouth agape here.
A little Scott Tennant teaser for you.
Oh my goodness!
But no, there's several things in this movie that are very much analogs to War of the Worlds. It's obviously very much inspired by it, which is fine.
Yeah. It's a classic,
and
movie
I think
for a reason.
that might be public domain. I'm not really sure if it is.
I don't,
because it's an older one.
Yeah, I mean, it was originally the radio show by Orson Welles, right?
No, it's a book even before that. So yeah. But by H.G. Wells, no relation.
Oh. Let's learn something today. Ooh, what are we going to learn?
That was just for the
that
no
was
relation. That was it.
Let's learn something today. Love
but
learning.
War of the Worlds, it's a small town. That's where it begins, like a small town invasion from Mars.
Just a small town world.
And this is also a small town, like a Philadelphia farm or something.
Well, it's definitely Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Pennsylvania, that's what I meant. In War of the Worlds, there's, I don't know if it's the climax, but they end up in a coal shed at one point to be saved, to protect themselves from the tripods and the aliens and all that. And in this, they're in a basement, but there's a whole sequence that's really frightening with a coal shaft. Yeah. And that's kind of cool. And then organic weapons, you could say, or what ends up hurting the aliens, germs and water. Yeah. So it's almost like, for me, it wasn't really a twist because so much of it works, with it. It's just kind of like a new telling of that kind of story, which I like. A lot of people I remember were like, it's just War of the Worlds, but with a twist, and I'm like, it's not really a twist. It's
This came out before Spielberg's War of the Worlds, right?
Yes.
Did you like that, Spielberg's?
I did, but I wasn't crazy about it.
Yeah,
I felt that Signs was a better Alien movie than it.
Agreed.
And what I was going to tell you, Scott, was War of the Worlds is actually one of the movies we could have watched this week.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I think we picked the right one.
If we had time, I would have liked to watch both and compare them.
Yeah.
But we didn't have time, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, what else could we have watched?
1 second. I'll say it. I'll jump in a second. I just want to see what Signs was. Audience score on here.
I see signs now around me.
I feel like it'll have a higher audience score
I hope so.
than War of the Worlds. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this week we could have watched Kingsman: The Secret Service.
If we wanted to, we could have just done like a clip show of all the times I've mentioned it.
Yeah. We could just piece that together for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I'll just one more time. Fine, funny. There's a pug.
I was hoping to go for 3 Fs. Fine, funny.
Yeah.
Fuckable.
Oh.
Speaking of, next up is Godzilla 2014.
Yeah, Godzilla fine.
Eat it.
Did you see this one? I never saw.
Yeah,
I
saw it.
Was it
It's
good? They're making a sequel.
It's
right?
pretty good, man. I mean, it's
They're making a sequel and they're roping it in with King Kong, aren't they?
yeah. And then apparently recently, the Pacific Rim director for the sequel was like, I would love to one day like push these out further and have them all.
Hell yeah.
Because they're legendary. I think all of them are legendary studio or whatever.
Oh, okay.
So
sure, do it. That'd be cool.
might as well.
I'm not wild about Pacific Rim, and I definitely wasn't wild about the Uprising trailer, but that's probably how you could get me back in. It's just like, let's put all the big shit together.
Monster cinematic universe. Monster cinematic universe right there.
Reboot.
Yeah, no, I saw Godzilla. It's Bryan Cranston was like really big from Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
So every trailer was like Bryan Cranston, Godzilla, Bryan Cranston, Godzilla.
It's like Bryan Cranston won a Golden Globe.
It had an amazing trailer, I remember.
Yeah, I remember the trailer being good.
Yeah. And
Isn't
then,
Watanabe in it? Ken Watanabe?
Yeah. And then when I went to see it, I think Bryan Cranston's in a very short amount of that film.
Huh.
And it didn't really upset me because I think Elizabeth Olsen's in it. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
And then Kick-Ass is in it.
She fine.
He fine too. So they're all
Taylor
good.
Johnson.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's like a weird kind of depressing Godzilla film at points. But I like
That's
that.
what you want from a Godzilla.
I like
Is it
that.
more depressing than the Matthew Broderick Godzilla film? Was it Godzilla 2000?
Different ways. That one's depressing because it got made and was put out there. This one was more depressing because like it just deals with like a lot of grief and stuff as well as being a Godzilla movie.
Yeah.
But it's still pretty fun. I'm not a Godzilla expert by any means. We do know some people who are like more into the Godzilla world.
For sure.
So I don't know. They might feel differently, but I was fine with it. And I'm excited to see more stuff because it was kind of cool.
Yeah. 11 from Stranger Things is going to be in the sequel, apparently.
I heard about that.
That Thomas Middleditch, too.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
I wonder if she'll have like 5 minutes in it because she's big now. She'll be Bryan Cranston when he's young. That makes no sense.
A classic.
Next up, BFG.
The BFG.
The BFG.
This
big
one was like
fucking giant.
This is a beloved children's book.
Never read it.
It was one of my favorites as a youngin'.
That's fair.
Little Scoots would tuck into bed in my Thomas the Tank Engine blanket. I just let Roald Dahl take me to that whole new world.
This makes me laugh because BFG in early first-person shooters was always the big fucking gun.
And in Doom.
Yeah. And that's what I knew it as because I never read the book. So when I saw that, I was like, is this like a Doom sequel?
Yeah, you're like, oh, boy. I think the marketing is a failure in that sense.
Yeah.
Like, just call it the Big Friendly Giant, but the book is called the BFG, so there's authenticity there.
Yeah.
This is like part of this Spielberg weird. He's made some weird family movies lately. I don't know what it is. Like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, and I mean, 74% is nothing to really scoff at, but he stopped doing, the Saving Private Ryan's, the Schindler's Lists and stuff.
Yeah.
He's not making us like Adventures of Tintin is in this interesting mold of movie that he's making.
That's actually one of the ones we could have watched this week.
Boom. Spielberg won at our 74% spot.
Yeah. For the Worlds. Spielberg,
Yeah,
he's all
wow.
over it.
He's all over it.
You know what he didn't do?
What?
Inherent Vice. We could have watched that.
That's Paul Thomas Anderson.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's Joaquin Phoenix too.
It is.
I was never really that interested in this.
Honestly, I forget about it all the time. Not as a discredit to it. It's just like so many good movies come out every year.
No. It's tough to go out of your way for one when you're barely interested. Like The Master is also Paul Thomas Anderson, and it's also Joaquin Phoenix. And I didn't see that, but I'm way more interested.
Yeah,
in
that's on my list. I just never got around to seeing it. But
so maybe when I watch that Inherent Vice, I'll either move up or down on my list. But it's not in the top like 200 right now.
Well, one that you saw that I didn't see, Nocturnal Animals. We could have watched that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have. I didn't push too hard for it. Obviously, I don't think it was that good.
Yeah.
It's a strange movie. Yeah, it's fine. It's
We also could have watched Ghost.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
I love Ghost. There's some.
I don't think I've seen the whole thing.
There's some things that probably have not aged well. Like I feel like there's definitely a Latino criminal named like Willie who has like a jury curl, and he very much looks like a Puerto Rican drug addict who would kill somebody would look like. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but I'm just saying like when you bring yourself out of the 80s a couple decades,
taste good.
It just it might not age as well. That's all. There's a lot of funny stuff with Whoopi Goldberg's character. I don't remember. I feel like her name was Oda Mae Brown. Her and Patrick Swayze had really good charisma.
Goldberg and Swayze?
Yeah. Like really good comedic charisma playing with each other.
Yeah.
And then, the famous Demi Moore pottery scene.
I bought a pottery wheel for that.
My favorite thing about this movie is if Whoopi Goldberg's character allows herself to be taken over by a ghost as a medium, she becomes literally a physical medium for a ghost to use. So he can take over her body, and he tells Demi Moore in ghost form, like, tells her to just close her eyes and like give in for a moment, and he takes over Whoopi's body. The camera shows, Swayze and Demi Moore like, having one last kiss. But in reality, it's just Whoopi Goldberg kissing Demi Moore, and that has always made me just kind of laugh since I was a kid, because I was just like, if she were to open her eyes right there, she'd be making out with Whoopi Goldberg. Not saying she's not into that, that's fine, but it just always kind of made me laugh.
Physical being is just a social construct. So
there you go. Scott Tennant, ladies and gentlemen. But no, I like Ghost a lot. It has the famous song playing while they do the pottery. It's a fun movie.
What song? Hungry Eyes?
I wish it was Hungry Eyes. Righteous Brothers. We could have also watched Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah, is that Kubrick's last movie?
I think it's his last completed film, yeah.
Yeah, I guess, because he had his fingers in AI.
Yeah, but this was like his last complete work.
This is Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looks interesting. I would have watched this one.
I've always been meaning to watch it for multiple reasons. But no, I mean, it just, I remember I was too young to see it when it came out.
Yeah.
Because I think it's about a couple swinging and going to sex clubs.
I might still be too young.
But yeah, so it's on my list. I don't think it's streaming anywhere right now.
I think it at least was on Amazon Prime for a while.
Well, I might have to see if it's still on there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Kubrick. You kind of have to watch it then.
Yeah.
And then it's Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman.
Yep.
Lily Sobieski is in it.
Oh, she is?
I think so.
I can dig it.
Yeah, but we don't really have much to say on that. We could have picked it. I think it's long. I think it's at least 3 hours.
Yeah, that's a reason not to pick it.
And then we could have also watched The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yeah, this is one of those like late Disney. I don't even know how to. One of those late era Disney movies.
The end of the Renaissance era.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, but I didn't.
There's like one or two songs that are just kind of like, I feel like people like them, but that's about it.
I couldn't name a single song.
Exactly.
Is the woman the princess in this Esmeralda?
Yeah, I don't know if she's a princess, but she is named that. I don't know if she is. I honestly don't remember. I remember there's some freaky like visual designs with this movie.
Yeah.
Which is cool, but freaky. Yeah, but I know people who love it. My Disney peeps seem to really love it.
Yeah,
So-
that's. I don't know. I mean, it's
I'd
like
have
this,
to-
Hercules, Treasure Planet, like all those movies just kind of blend together to me in that I don't think I've seen any of them as an adult.
I would say Hercules and this one were kind of like the wind down period of the Renaissance, and then
Treasure Planet and like Atlantis are like almost outsiders.
Yeah, the non. I don't remember if Treasure Planet's musical, but I feel like Atlantis wasn't musical.
I never saw Treasure Planet or Atlantis, but I don't think Atlantis was either.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
So I would consider that post-Renaissance when they were scared to do musicals for a while.
Why would they be afraid to do musicals?
I don't know if they're afraid to, but I just say that. But I feel like they didn't make a couple musicals
That's
for a while.
That's a spicy take.
Whoa! Yeah, sometimes we get spicy.
Yeah. What anything else?
That's no, wait. I missed one.
Whoa.
Disney Pixar's Cars.
Yeah. We didn't need to go back for this.
Cars
is just like
I've shared my Cars experience before on here, right?
Yeah. I don't remember it.
Took a road trip last year for a family family reasons and my sweet little nieces were watching Cars, but they had a DVD that skips about an hour into the film, and they kept watching that same hour over and over again until I told my sister, enough. You have to change this film. I've seen an hour of Cars like 3 times in a row, and I'm going crazy.
And then you saw the second half of Kung Fu Panda 3,
No.
right?
Then I watched Kung Fu Panda 2 like 3 times in a row, and I was fine with that.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty good. The Dragon Warrior. I'm like, it's good, man.
Your Jack Black is good. Cars is honestly, it feels so disingenuous to me compared to other Pixar movies because it's such a merchandise like machine.
Yeah.
And it's just like such low-hanging fruit. It's like kids love Cars, kids love Pixar. Pixar's going to make a movie called Cars.
Yeah, one of my friends, he's a dad and he has a couple kids, so he watches a lot of the Cars movies in theaters because kids want to see them in theaters. Yeah. And he always hits me up with his Cars thoughts because he knows A, I have no response, and then B, he's just seen them so much that he has a lot of thoughts about them.
Well, if he'd like to, work friend, if you'd like to send in your thoughts to here on the air.
Yeah. Anybody, if you have Cars thoughts, send them in.
Yeah, to the criticalbreakdownpodcast@gmail.com.
That's exactly how you have to type it, too.
No.
No, I mean, Disney, Pixar, they pump out some hits. Cars was a hit. You can't deny it. Cars 2, I think everyone hates.
Oh.
And I think Cars 3 did not perform as well as they were hoping, but it still made enough money.
Sure.
There's also Airplanes, which is loosely
I think it's just called Planes, isn't it?
Planes. There's Planes. I think in Planes, they did establish that World War II still happened.
Yeah, which means there's a car Hitler.
Yeah. Man,
also,
that's a weird series.
What do they do when they go to the gas station?
They live off of gas, but there's also cows that are cars.
That's the thing.
Man, it makes no sense.
And how would you like to be the car that brings the other cars around? It'd be like your job is to carry people. Not
Oh,
meter.
like the big, a rig, like a big
rig that carries around the NASCAR cars.
Man, yeah.
And what if sprinting, like Olympic sprinting, was just called NAS people?
Do they fuck?
Because that's what NASCAR is.
Do the cars fuck?
That's the real hot take.
Dude, we're skirting around it here, man.
They don't.
Do baby cars get born? Do they have litters? Where do the cars come out of?
That's a thought. How are cars made? Is Henry Ford like a god in this universe?
Or is he like a pervert?
Yeah. Or people like, it's Adam and Ford, not Adam and
Gord.
Signs is good, man.
Yeah, I like Signs.
This is the second time I've watched Signs in 2 months, and I'm literally already craving it again because of how much I enjoy it.
I will say, and once again, this is more me than the film. My initial watch, I watched with a friend who I think had already seen it, but was like, this is the scariest movie I've ever seen, which is definitely not what I think. No. But just his excitement at the time got me really into the movie when I was first watching it, where I was like, yo, that alien's about to pop out. I'm freaked out.
Yeah.
Because he was freaking out the whole time. So then watching it this time, I was like, man, this is suspenseful, but I'm not really
scary.
scared.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's Halloween, by the way. Today's Halloween.
Yeah, I said Happy Halloween to you earlier.
Whoa.
Hot scares today.
Gotcha.
Yeah. No, but I like the suspense. It's just in my head. Once again, this is me. This is the film.
No.
I was remembering like a more scary, terrifying experience. But I do like the emotional buildup. And I mentioned this in The Day After Tomorrow, that I like. The thing I like about disaster films is there's this like electrifying feeling when you get them right.
Yeah.
Like Independence Day does it, and some of the other ones do it, where like the news broadcast Contact does it, where like things feel electrifying, where it's like exciting, even though
this does that.
You know it's going to be bad, it's exciting, and this does that really well.
Yeah.
So that's super fun. I really love a lot of the visual cues in this movie. There's a lot of shots. The shots where he puts everything together, I love that. And there's a lot of good framing shots where they use the people to frame like the focus up.
Yeah.
And there's
really
just a
good
lot
stuff.
of really good stuff in this movie. So even though I remembered it being scarier and it's not, and that's on me,
Yeah,
like
it's
I still
definitely
had
not
a
a
lot
scary
of
movie.
enjoyment with it.
There's a lot to take away from. There's a lot to unpack.
Yeah. The music's amazing too.
Yeah, the James Newton Howard.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just really
stuff.
good. Like the build-up, I feel like most of any of the, and this goes for any movie, you know, your suspenseful moments, they're not going to work without good music.
No.
This, I'm not going to say all the suspense is carried by the music, but the music like puts in overtime. That's all I'm going to say. It really does its work.
It perfectly
And
sets
for
the mood.
emotional cues too.
Yeah.
And also I want to say, and I'm just all over the place right now, I'm sorry, but having a lot of
I love
thoughts. I think it's funny that Spielberg went on to make War of the Worlds, because one thing I noticed with this film is it's very Spielberg-esque. It's still
Elaborate.
M. Night completely,
Yeah.
but it at certain points reminds me of, you know, older films, kind of like Close Encounters type of stuff.
Sure.
Where there's the electrifying feeling again, which is in that movie as well, where something big's going on. But it's like a family in a small town. The baby monitor scene could literally be directly out of a Spielberg movie, where they climb on top of the car and hold it up.
that's true.
It's like a fucking magical shot.
Yeah,
And
Spielberg has this way of like building magic into otherwise sort of mundane.
Interstellar, since Spielberg originally was going to do that movie, like that first 20 minutes feels like a Spielberg movie.
Yeah.
There's parts of this that feel like that. He didn't have any hand in it that I know of, but it just randomly feels like it, because it's the kind of story like War of the Worlds that Spielberg could do, even though I do feel Spielberg's War of the Worlds is worse than this. But no, there's just a couple moments like that with a kid. The father doesn't believe him. The father's coming to believe something.
Yeah.
I feel like that's very Spielberg wheelhouse.
Like the moments with the foil hats.
Yeah.
Like walking in a room and seeing that.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
feels like a Spielberg thing.
And then just kind of this whole thing with the movie of like hope versus doubt.
Yeah.
And that's also very Spielberg-esque. So
No, for
there's
sure.
a lot of it in here. And it's just when you make this kind of movie, you have to.
If you're a director and you make something that's Spielberg-esque, that's a very good thing.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because he's a legend.
Exactly. No one's going to fault you for that. So
We didn't want to really unpack every scene, but I just want to say the dinner scene is amazing, where he says like, we're gonna have whatever everyone wants for dinner. And what is it? She says like spaghetti.
There's French toast and
Morgan
mashed
goes
potatoes.
for French toast and mashed potatoes. I don't remember what Merle gets, and Graham I
Merle
think
wanted
has a steak.
He wanted chicken
Fried
teriyaki.
Chicken teriyaki.
Yeah.
But that was funny, like the build up to it. Hold up.
I'm just gonna give you a partial correction. You said he wanted steak. He wanted a burger with bacon, extra bacon.
Oh, that's true.
Sorry, go on.
I can't believe you just did that to me.
Partial correction.
Wow me.
Wow. Are you upset?
Yeah.
Are you?
I'm insane with anger.
I'm not insane with anger yet, but
Okay.
the nice thing about that scene is it's like sets this like very funny tone going into it, but then it becomes this real emotional boiling point.
Yeah.
And Mel Gibson does it perfectly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it kind of moves you into the third act.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, things are still a little fun, but it like changes that tone very suddenly to the seriousness. And it's not like the family's falling apart at the seams or anything.
Oh,
It
no,
just like sets
it's a
the
normal
gravity
family
of
thing,
things.
really.
Yeah.
For the situation that would be happening.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting is what is the son's name? Morgan.
Morgan Hess.
In this scene, Morgan yells out, "I hate you,"
Yeah.
and then comes over and gives his dad a hug because he doesn't really hate him.
Yeah.
And then the scene following it in the basement,
when
he
Morgan's
yells
having
out,
his attack.
"I hate you at God," and then by the end of the movie, he doesn't really mean it. So
that's
it's kind of a good tie-in there.
Watch signs 4 times and you're still learning.
Here's another learning moment for you.
Oh.
That scene took like 3 hours to film, the dinner table scene, which is actually pretty short for filming. You know, like that could take 2 days.
Yeah, and they actually had to stop the filming early because Rory Culkin's getting sick of French toast.
It's terrible. But realistically, you do have very strict scheduling rules when you work with kids.
Yeah.
So they would have actually had like very strict rules on them.
Yeah.
But I think it's funny that took 3 hours, and then the cabinet scene, the pantry scene over at the veterinarian's house took like 3 weeks to fully do.
Really?
Yeah. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what,
because the pantry scene only has one character.
Yeah. It took like a lot of time to film it. So
I mean, there's some trickiness with it. The lighting has to be right.
Yeah,
the
but
reflections.
what's interesting is it's like 2 of the more emotional scenes. One more thrilling and one more, like heartfelt.
Yeah.
But just radically different styles of filmmaking within.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
You know what else is cool? They're not in like a green screen. That's a fucking cornfield.
Yeah. Yeah, like we said,
it's good.
M. Night's kind of famous overall for not for trying to avoid CG when he can.
Well, very restrained with it.
Yeah, and this, like we said, the aliens, their graphics when you see them straight on don't hold up as well.
No,
they're not terrible, but they just don't hold up that great. Yeah, it's better than the Mummy's CG, which is a couple years after, so it should be. But I mean, it's only like 3 years after the Mummy. Yeah. But it's hands down way better.
Yeah, it's fine. And part of it is because there's so much else going on. You're never just like staring the aliens, and there's not a lot of motion that the aliens. I feel like the motion of it can kind of betray the animation a little bit, but they're mostly still. So when they're fully in screen,
and like, I think there's 4 moments that you see one full on the rooftop,
the Brazilian camera, which is actually shot by M. Night Shyamalan himself
on a little handheld. The final scene, and then now you only see his leg in the cornfield.
Yeah.
And then you see it. You can combine that. You see the arm come out of the thing. The coal shaft. So you don't really get many moments with it full on until the end, which is smart. Super smart.
Yep.
I mean, if you're gonna make a small scale alien invasion movie, that's what you do. You make it personal.
You do it right.
You do it right. You do it like Signs.
You do it right, and you do it midnight.
Scott, where can the good people find us?
I hate doing this part because I don't listen to you. You can find us coaching each other through asthma attacks without our inhalers, or you can find us on Twitter at BreakdownCast, and on Facebook and the website thecriticalbreakdown.com. You can find me regaling my minor league baseball career at the military recruitment office, or you can find me at breakdown_Scott on Instagram.
You can find me crying over my French toast and mashed potatoes while my family watches me in horror. Or you can find me at Max Rivera Film on Twitter. Yeah. Josh Rivera did our artwork. Jason Brown does our music.
Wally is the podcast alien.
And we're the podcast
Boo Boys.
It's
Halloween.
Next week on The Critical Breakdown,
we got a little something special brewing for you.
Cool.
Tune in.